Regan Slaymaker for International Boxing News, and I would like to welcome you to episode 5 of the preview show. It's the big one. It is Oleksandr Usyk versus Tyson Fury 2. The rematch, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, unified heavyweight world titles. Does it get much bigger than this? Potentially in May when it's for Undisputed, but we won't go into that too much. But today we're going to go over the main event, the undercard, and everything there or thereabouts. I mean, let's just start from the top. Let's jump straight into it. Okay, unified heavyweight world titles. It's fair to say Usyk's going into this fight with his legacy secured after that unbelievable performance in May. I think I had an 8-4 on my scorecard. I'll put it up on the screen now. I mean, Usyk's legacy is already secured in that fight. A lot of people going on about conversations whether he's the best fighter of all time. I mean, that from one win this year. This is his second fight this year. Unbelievable. But Fury is going into this fight needing this win to secure his legacy. Usyk's done complete. Even if he loses, his legacy is already there. But Fury needs this fight to cement his legacy as one of the best fighters of all time. I mean, yeah, like I said, one of the best performances of the year from Usyk. One of the only fighters to kind of hurt Fury so badly. He was uncontrollable. Obviously, like when Wilder knocked him down, he was still all there, if that makes sense. He got knocked down, but he was there. He was conscious. He was awake. His body just couldn't. His body just sent him to the ground, and he got straight back up again and won those fights. Obviously, the first one was a draw on paper, but a lot of people thought he won that first fight, even after getting really badly dropped in that final round. Fury, but where the rounds that Fury did win in that first fight was where he really imposed himself. You hit the body really well. Kind of the 4 rounds he did win on my scorecard, he really put a dent in Usyk. I mean, you whipped that long uppercut into the body and head and worked the body really, really well. Tried to slow Usyk down that way, which a lot of fighters kind of haven't really been able to do as much as Fury did. But I mean, but then he kind of let Usyk get. Usyk's so intelligent, he's so clever, and he managed to work out Fury in that fight and get the better of him and get back on top. Was that mainly because Fury didn't kind of step on it and didn't do as much as what he should have done in that first fight? Maybe, but it was an unbelievable performance from Usyk, and you cannot take that away from him in that first fight. I'm just going to move away the stuff that was on my table. But yeah, I mean, Usyk, it's fair to say Usyk basically essentially needs to do the same what he did in the first fight and more of it, but more of it to win this rematch. I mean, I had 8-4, like I said. Obviously a lot of those rounds were close, but I thought it was kind of near perfect from Usyk in that first fight. Whereas Tyson, he just didn't do enough of the work that was successful in the first fight throughout to win the majority of the rounds. And obviously he was hurt really, really badly in that 9th round. If that wasn't an undisputed heavyweight world title fight, that fight stopped. Okay, maybe if it was a world title fight, there's a bit of leeway, but let's be real. If that wasn't an undisputed heavyweight world title fight, one of the most legacy-defining fights of this generation, that fight would have been stopped in the 9th round when Tyson Fury was all over the place, hitting basically each corner post, going around the ring. But what we're seeing from Fury in the lead up to this fight, he's agitated. He wants to knock Usyk out. He has no doubt he's going to do that. When Fury says all these things, he means it. Do you remember when he went into the second Wilder fight, and he was going, I'm going to go in there, and I'm not going to dance around him this time. I'm going to go in there, stick it on Wilder, and knock him out. And everyone was going, oh, don't do that, because you got nailed in the last fight. You got up, and you still managed to win the rest of the round. But 9 times out of 10, if you get by Deontay Wilder and you hit the deck, the fight's over. So what are you doing trying to risk that again? But he did it. He done it. Capitulated Deontay Wilder, and arguably Deontay Wilder was never the same after those back end 2 fights with Fury in the trilogy there. But I mean, 2 world class fighters. two world-class fighters, and I'm really looking forward to Saturday. Leaning towards Usyk, mainly because of the absolute demolition job that I thought he'd done in the first fight, and he was so clever. He was so aware of the strengths that Fury had going into that fight, and he'll be more aware of those strengths because he knows that he got hurt in those 4 rounds that I gave him. He obviously won. I think he won a few more on the judges' scorecards. Yeah, like I said, Usyk needs to do the same in this fight, box to the best of his ability and not let Fury get the better of him. I mean, that sentence in itself is easier said than done completely. I'm very aware of that. But Fury basically needs to do more. He needs to whip those shots in from awkward angles that maybe other fighters can't see. Hurt that body of Usyk, slow him down. I mean, Usyk will be on you. He's a very come forward, aggressive fighter, but he's just so intelligent. Sometimes he makes fighters miss. But Usyk Fury needs to impose himself on Usyk, bully him almost, go in there and knock him out. Go in that with every intention. Obviously, the downside of that is when you go in there to knock a fighter out, the same thing can happen to you. Every fighter is aware of that, but that's why we love the game so much. I am leaning towards Usyk in the rematch, mainly because of the absolute demolition job he done in that first fight. Why would I rule out a Fury win though? But because he's capable of it. But Usyk was unbelievable in that first fight, and I think he's going to carry it on. And I think the win benefits him the most. Don't think the fight took much out of either, to be honest, because Fury's power of recovery throughout his whole career has been unbelievable, and Usyk won the fight. He's going to be on a high, and these are the fights that he's been wanting. Even when he was a cruiserweight, he was still looking at the heavyweight division, knowing he was going to get there. Leaning towards Usyk for the win on Saturday night, but not ruling out a Tyson Fury, kind of making it 1-1, and then potentially setting up a trilogy in the future. However, I don't think that happens. I think win or lose for Tyson Fury, we get the Anthony Joshua fight at Wembley Stadium, but that is just my opinion. And as well, put your predictions for the fight in the description below. The second fight I want to talk about on the card is Serhii Bohachuk versus Ishmael Davis. The late replacement once again, Ishmael Davis, coming in against the scary Ukrainian in Serhii Bohachuk, who's coming off a contested majority decision loss for the WBC interim world title against Virgil Ortiz, which Bohachuk won against Brian Mendoza as well. I mean, Bohachuk, yeah, it's a loss on his record to Virgil Ortiz. Not many people can kind of contest the record, that what's on the record, but dropped Virgil Ortiz twice in the process. I mean, one was counted as a slip, but it was a really good fight, really entertaining affair between the two. Yeah, as I said, excellent win against Brian Mendoza to win that interim title. He was a world level operator, obviously stopped Sebastian Fendora 2 fights previous to that. I mean, high pace, come forward style, can leave him vulnerable to taking a few shots himself. He has been beaten before, but he's bounced back, and he's bounced back to the top of the super welterweight division. Obviously, penned to fight Israel Madrimov on this card as well, and if you're penned to fight Israel Madrimov, you're a top world level operator. It's just a fact. Israel Madrimov is one of the best fighters, if not the best fighter in the division. Okay, and Serhii Bohachuk was ready to put it all on the line to fight him, but acute bronchitis came up for Israel Madrimov. Ishmael Davis steps in. I mean, I mean this with no disrespect to Ishmael Davis, but he hasn't really fought above British level in his career, and when he has, he's been beaten. Obviously, that's Josh Kelly in his last fight. But to his credit, that was a late notice fight, and the one round he did win against Josh Kelly, in my opinion, and on my scorecard. The scorecards were a bit close on that fight against Josh Kelly. And I'm one you many disagreed with him, but the one round I gave him against Josh Kelly was the 12th round, and he hurt Josh Kelly bad, cut him, and I thought he was all over the gaff, Josh Kelly, but he managed to pull in there and win the fight. I mean, it was, as I said, close on the judges' scorecard, but on my scorecard, I think I had it 11-1 in a 12 round fight. If it was 12 rounds, if not, if it was a 10 round contest, I gave it 9-1. But as I said, he came in late notice for that fight, but for all intents and purposes, he was in camp already. I think there was rumours that he was fighting on the prelims on the Wednesday show, so he's been in camp. He's ready. He's on weight for this fight, and he's ready to go in there and cause the upset. So what we do know about Ishmael Davis, his engine's there. He can do the full 12 rounds against high level operator. Might be losing, but his power carries on late into the rounds, and I think that whilst Bohachuk, you'd have to say kind of, whilst he's the unknown quantity, but the people he's beaten probably outclasses Ish on many levels. Any fighter can be hit, and any fighter can go down, and Serhii Bohachuk has been beaten as well. I'm leaning towards Bohachuk potentially by a stoppage, but I'm only saying that because of the levels they've fought at. But if Ishmael Davis does it, and he's very capable of doing it, it'll be one of the biggest. It'll probably be one of the biggest upsets of the year. 1, 2. He's a world level fighter if he beats Serhii Bohachuk. Really good fighter. As I said, former interim world champion. Lost that title to Virgil Ortiz, who is another world level fighter. No dispute in that. But it's a really good fight, and it's the co-main event. Ish is going to love that, and he set himself up for life. So fair play to Ish. I mean, Bohachuk, for me, potentially by stoppage, but if Ishmael Davis does it, I think everyone in the UK will be absolutely buzzing as well. Well, I'm going to move on now to, it was supposed to be Peter McGrail versus Dennis McCann, but unfortunately, and very sad, to be honest, and disappointing that Dennis McCann's VADA test returned an adverse finding, which means a whole host of things. Basically means the fight with Peter McGrail is off for the British and European and Commonwealth super bantamweight titles. But in steps, Rhys Edwards, Welshman Rhys Edwards. We'll get onto him in a minute, but Peter McGrail, I mean, one of the best amateurs that this country's ever produced. Commonwealth Games and European gold medalist, 2-time world bronze Olympian, stablemate of Nick Ball, the WBA featherweight world champion, and Andrew Kane, the British and Commonwealth bantamweight champion. And, I mean, if you haven't met the Everton Red Triangle crew, they keep themselves to themselves. But they'll have a chat with you, they're open to, but they are not short of confidence. And they're on a serious run this year. Paul Stevenson and Anthony, I've forgotten your name, Anthony, but Anthony ERT. They're doing a really good job with all the fighters down at the Everton Red Triangle. And Peter McGrail has bounced back from that loss to Jericho Quinn. He's beaten Mark Leach in April. He was scheduled to fight Jericho. Jericho pulled out for the fight, forgot the reason. Fights Mark Leach on about 2 weeks' notice, who's a former British champion. Beats him fairly comfortably, I thought, in Liverpool that night. And then he fights Brad Foster, who Rhys Edwards has beaten as well, but absolutely capitulates him in 2 rounds. Having a quick watch of Rhys Edwards today, I've heard more than I've watched about Rhys Edwards. I remember interviewing Joe Cordina ahead of his fight with Anthony Cacace in the Matchroom gym, and I said I wanted to talk about him, the Welsh talent, the talent that's coming out of Wales at the moment. And I mentioned the likes of Gavin Gwynn and Lauren Price, but he mentioned that a lot of the fighters that come out of Lanrummy now, and he mentioned Rhys Edwards, Kane Shepherd, Ben Crocker. Yeah, Rhys was one of the names that he mentioned, and I just watched his win against Thomas Patrick Ward. He has a great engine. He carries himself really well for the full 10 rounds for the championship contest. I think his best punch is his jab. Really good jab when he sits in it and he snaps it out, and it can really land. It can really kind of offset his fighter that's in front of him. He has a great punch selection, but can be hit. I thought that fight with Thomas Patrick Ward was a little closer than the scorecards might have suggested, but he tucks up well. And he's very defensively sound. However, can be hit. Thomas Patrick Ward, you'd have to say, kind of on the back end of his career, got stopped by Otabek Kolmatov, but Otabek Kolmatov's a world level fighter as well. But that being said, I think McGrail might be a bit too clever for him. I think he might be a bit too quick on his feet. I might be a bit too experienced with the level of opposition he's fought in, both amateur and professional as well. Those rugged guys who you might not have know too much about, but might cause you problems as well. If Rhys Edwards stays in one position for too long, I think Peter McGrail might make him pay with twos, threes, and fours. But if Rhys Edwards, this is a last minute opportunity for Rhys Edwards. He was in camp to fight Leon Woodstock. Leon Woodstock nowhere near the level of Peter McGrail, but he was in camp for January. So don't tell me he's not going to be fit and ready for that. And it's he's a really good replacement for Dennis McCann on such short notice. I'm looking forward to that fight, edging Peter McGrail in that one. I really hope for both of them, obviously with the situation with Dennis McCann, depending on what weight it's at. Rhys Edwards is featherweight, Peter McGrail super bantam. Depending on what weight it's at, I'd hope they get a title on the line for that fight, because I think Peter for sure deserves it. Obviously, being Dennis's mandatory challenger as well. So whatever happens with those belts, providing he gets a win on Saturday, or if the situation's sorted out beforehand, Peter McGrail will be next in line to fight for the vacant title. So, but I think Peter McGrail might be a bit too clever for Rhys Edwards on Saturday night, especially on short notice. There's always an uphill battle, but it's a good fight. It's a close fight, and the likes of Joe Cordina wouldn't be bigging up Rhys Edwards if he wasn't a good contender, and obviously trained by Gary Lockett, who's on a serious run at the moment, especially with Ben Crocker beating Stelios Papadopoulos away in Brentwood on the Top Tier show as well for the IBF European lightweight title. Moving on, heavyweights. A lot of people might want me to start with them, but I'm hardcore. I like to start with the lower weights, work my way up. Johnny Fisher, Dave Allen. I mean, for this fight, for me, it's all about what Dave Allen has left. I've been saying to a lot of people, if Dave Allen is fully motivated, if he's trained hard, if he's fit, he can cause Fisher problems. But the story of Dave Allen's career is that there's a lot of ifs in there. He might have turned a corner. He's matured in his older age. He's got a couple of kids now, I think. But even when he got those really good wins against Lucas Brown and and Nick Webb, don't think the kind of professionalism was there. But he still picked up those wins, and they're still really good performances. And they're the wins that kind of made him this cult hero of British boxing. And we all love Dave Allen. I mean, I remember me and my brother on the first boxing show I went to, he boxed David Price, and my brother was saying, no, we want Dave Allen to win against David Price. Didn't go his way, and I think the training that's what kind of got the better of him that night. And yet, by his own admission, I think he had a lot of things going on. But if he's 100%, I think Dave Allen could give Johnny Fisher kind of a few problems to think about. I'd still pick Fisher to win because he's cruising as a professional at the moment, and he's always improving. He's on serious momentum, and he trains so hard, him and Mark Tibbs together, and obviously Sonny Cannon and the team. I think the most for me, the Southern Area title win against Harry Armstrong on the AJ card. I mean, that was his first serious step up. Harry Armstrong, good area level operator, probably English level operator, really good heavyweight to have in. He's always brought in for sparring with the big boys, and he brought it to him. He stuck it on him, and he stopped him as well, and he clearly whacked so hard. And then it's proven by the Alan Babbage win, where Alan Babbage is a limited fighter, but he had that world title opportunity against Lucas Rozansky, Bridgerweight world title, weight division below heavyweight, whatever your opinions of it. But Johnny just went in there and stuck it on him, and he couldn't make it out of the first round. Punches so hard. And let's not act like Alan hasn't been hit and recovered. I mean, that Adam Balski fight was one of the best fights I've ever seen. I mean, it was absolutely mental, that fight. Joshua Buatsi, Craig Richards undercard, I think. But Johnny, I think, he's always fit. He always trains hard. He punches a lot harder than Dave Allen. And I think this is the fight that makes, if he's not already, makes Johnny Fisher a superstar in boxing. He's already got this kind of outside of boxing persona with his dad with the Bursch and everything like that. But this is the fight in the boxing sphere that everyone will take seriously, and then we could see him in the likes of David Adeleye. We could see him in the likes of Sol Dakers, same management team, but why not? I think this is where we see him in with those guys. Leaning towards Johnny Fisher by stoppage. I think within the first 6, but I'd like to see if Dave Allen comes in here 100% and really makes it kind of difficult for Johnny Fisher. He gives him things to think about, which I think he will, because he's got the more pedigree than Johnny Fisher, but Johnny Fisher is vastly improving, and he's probably one of the fastest improving fighters from the UK, if not heavyweights. It's fair to say, so looking forward to that one.